Happy Halloween, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Maximum News for a particularly spooky entry. And it's not going to be very spooky. No, I'm just saying that. I don't know. Maybe saying that out loud will help us with the algorithm. I don't know. I'm your host, as always, your friendly neighborhood Simpsons kid, Maximilian Danger Derrat. And I'm joined, as always, by Sybsidian. How you doing, Syb?
Hi.
Wow, Syb, you're really getting into your kawaii anime cosplay there for Halloween, eh?
Yes, it's my favorite cosplay ever. Actually, that's not me. That's my wonderful wife, Mooney. Say hello.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Yes, we tricked you, right? We tricked you. People, yeah, we didn't trick you, but no. Anyways, Moon is joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. She's actually joining us to not only just do all the other stories with us, but she also is coming on particularly to discuss the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which you guys
spoilers. No spoilers.
Yeah,
We will not do spoilers. We're just going to talk about thematically and how it feels to the game.
Right. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we're just going to talk about some stuff off the top. Obviously, because, this is it's my show and it's Syb's show, but the name is Maximum News, and I would be remiss if I didn't make this a number one topic because it's my second most anticipated game of the year that just came out last Friday. I'm of course talking about Alan Wake 2. I've been waiting for this game for 13 years, just as so many other people have. The original Alan Wake came out in 2010. I love Remedy's games. Remedy is the developer behind Alan Wake 2, as well as other wonderful titles like Max Payne 1 and 2, the aforementioned Alan Wake, and what I believe to be their magnum opus, which is Control. Even their lesser effort, I think the worst game that they ever put out was Quantum Break, but even then I still liked that game. More of its story, not so much its gameplay, but still a good game. And I put that down mainly just to Sam Lake's, he's sort of like the head honcho over at Remedy, the lead writer, the guy who injects personality into all those games. I love him so much. He's like the Western Hideo Kojima. That's how I refer to him, because that's exactly what his games are. There's sort of this intermingling of the worlds of the ultra-violent and the creepy with some stuff that's extra goofy. Get a lot of that with Hideo Kojima's games. So it finally came out after 13 years. And I managed to beat almost all of it. I'm about 90% of the way done. I haven't got through the last 10%, unfortunately. I do know I'm at the last 10% because, without spoiling anything, there's a part closer towards the end of the game where it just asks, oh, you might want to save. Because, some games will tell you that you might want to save your game because you're going to be getting towards the end. Yeah, that whole thing. So, was it worth the 13-year wait? Syb, when you're a creative genius like Sam Lake, you're going to have a lot of ideas bubbling in your head. And it's quite clear to anybody who's been following him and the work that he's been doing over at Remedy for that long. You've known that he's wanted to do Alan Wake 2 for a long time. He just hasn't been able to due to the constraints of the market and, whether or not it would have been affordable. Well, you can clearly tell that the ideas he's had for Alan Wake 2 have been cooking at the back of his brain for the better part of a decade. And when they've been cooking for that long, they're going to be refined. And let me tell you, Syb, this is one of the most refined, polished games that not only Remedy has ever put out, but one of the most refined and polished games that I've played in a very, very long time. I love this game.
I am so glad. Words cannot emphasize, because I was really worried, because when you have a game that's got a long break between between the series entries, you always worry a lot about the quality. And I mean, we can point our fingers at Duke Nukem.
Yeah.
Jinx. Oh my goodness, that's the poster child for massive screw ups. Right? In continuing a game, because anytime you get that big gap between it, and the studio is completely different, the leadership's almost completely different. In a lot of cases, it's like you really worry that what you're going to get is something like King Kong.
Right.
which we'll talk about later.
Sure. But you're right. Absolutely right, Sab. Like even though I always had faith in Remedy and Sam that they were going to be able to pull this off, it's not an easy task to come back to a franchise 13 years after the fact. And not only did they make it great, they made it a game that is both approachable and enjoyable for people that are longtime fans and people who know the lore like myself, and people who have absolutely no idea what the hell is going on. It's a perfect entry point. Doesn't matter if you played Alan Wake back in the day or Control, which shares the same universe as Alan Wake. You can easily get into it. You won't be lost. I mean, you won't understand all the mysteries, but the story is told in such a way where you don't need to have prior knowledge of everything that's been going on or the mysteries. It's just you can enter into the story right now and discover the answers to those mysteries for yourself in whatever way you want. I'll say this, though, before I get into specifics. It's not my favorite game by them. Sorry. It's not my favorite game by them, and I also don't think it's the most well-rounded game that they put out. I think, in that regard, it's their second best. For myself, my favorite game, and I think the most well-rounded game that they put out is Control. That said, and I'll get more into why that is in a second, but as just for what I believe Alan Wake 2 is the best at, it's not only the best-looking game they've ever done, it's the most creative game they've ever done, it's scary as hell, and it is their best story to date, easily. And I know what it means to say that because Sam Lake tells some really damn good stories. But Alan Wake 2 is just, it's on a whole other level. It's something that's going to be talked about for years after the fact in terms of just some of the things that it does in terms of its creative storytelling. It's stuff that I've never really seen in a video game, and it's just unique, original, and high quality. Now, let's go into the specifics. I just said, yeah, it's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. The Northlight engine, I don't know how Remedy got their hands on that type of technology, but damn, it looks good. There are some times when I'm playing this game where for a split second, I'll think that what I'm looking at is real. It's that good. 60 frames per second. I'm running this on some pretty high-tech hardware. Weather effects, foliage that moves in the wind and looks really good when it does it. It doesn't look cheesy or anything. Facial animations, whether you're in cutscene or out cutscene, it looks amazing and lifelike. Oh my god, it just... not only that, the art direction, which I know might sound a little bit weird because it's not a game that you would tend to think would be known for its art direction, because a lot of it seems like it's set in a realistic world and like a small town in America, in Washington. I think it's actually, that's the state that Alan Wake 1 and 2 are set in. But, and it's hard to explain without spoiling anything, but the art direction in this game is just, it's so creative. Like, stuff that you've never seen in a game. It's a technical work of art. The entire time I've been playing this game, I've only encountered 2 or 3 visual glitches, and that's it. Nothing else. And that's coming from a studio like Remedy, which is like a AA studio. They should be a AAA studio, given how high quality their games are. But the amount of polish that this game received compared to most games that come out is off the chain. The game, I was just talking about how scary it is. You know, Sab, I've said on a number of occasions when we talked about horror games and reviewed them that I don't get scared by horror games most of the time. This game came close. There's some stuff that happens in this game that is genuinely horrifying, and I'm like, oh my god, they really went there? Like, they decided to do that. And it's also, when it comes to jump scares, there are a lot of jump scares in this game, and, you know, sometimes jump scares, in a lot of circumstances, they can come off as cheap thrills. But in this game, they're used almost always appropriately. The fact that they managed to pull that off.
That's good.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
Jump scares to me are dumb.
Yeah.
And pointless, especially when it's like, if you're in that situation that they're framing the character in, it's called peripheral vision.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, oh, the person's standing right beside them. I guarantee you, if somebody's standing right beside you,
you would notice.
You're standing up straight, you're not distracted, you would see them.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm not.
so that's
guys,
good. That's good.
I'm not.
I like that.
I'm not saying this because I'm biased towards Remedy's games. Like there are some times where, like a few times in the game, where the jump scares happen and it doesn't work. But most of the time it does, and I'm as shocked as everybody else is that it works as well as it does. Finally, before I give my just final review, I will talk about sort of the one thing that stood out to me that I don't think worked as well as it should. It's good, but it should have been better, in my opinion. The game is marketed as a survival horror game because, I mean, like, it clearly takes inspiration from Resident Evil, like games like Resident Evil, especially the more recent Resident Evil remakes. And in terms of emulating the gameplay where you search around for supplies and that over-the-shoulder gunplay in third person, it does it well. And when you get into gunfights, when the gunfights happen, they're enjoyable. I just found that the balance between when those events happen and the space between those events, when you're trying to solve the mystery, because that's what Alan Wake is all about. It's about trying to solve the mystery of all the mysterious things that are happening around you. The balance wasn't as good as I feel it should have been. If they had like 20% more combat encounters and they made the survival horror gameplay more traditional in that you try to... Because a part of this game is resource gathering, because that's such a very common part of the survival horror gaming experience. When I'm playing Alan Wake 2, there was never a point where I was concerned about what items to take with me or whether I was putting too many items into the bin or anything like that, because I always had what I needed, even though the game is framed in such a way where you should try to... It's making you think that you have to survive, but I never had to worry about that. It's not like I'm a god at these types of games. I had those problems when I'm playing Resident Evil and Silent Hill on normal. Then I played Alan Wake on normal. And I just found that element of the game, it could have been better. It's fine as it is. And the stuff around it is so good that it's really not a problem. But it does detract from my overall enjoyment. So, aside from that, though, everything else is fantastic. I don't begrudge anybody who thinks that this is Remedy's masterpiece. It's not quite there for me. It's just a step below Control. But, man, this game gets so much stuff right. And I cannot wait to go back and finish it. I cannot wait to go through it a second time so I can get all the stuff I missed, all the lore bits. Great characters, great just branching storylines, great mysteries, great answers to lore questions that we've been trying to figure out for the past decade and a half. I love this game. And by the time the end of the year comes, it probably will end up being my game of the year. I love it. And I highly recommend that people go out and check it out right now. It's not at full price. Remedy actually sacrificed the physical editions for the game, which is, too bad. And I understand the reasoning for that. But, a positive aspect of that is that when you buy it digitally, you buy it for like $10 to $15 less. So go out and check it out. You won't be disappointed. Yeah. Any thoughts?
So I think what you're saying is this is definitely going to be the game of the year.
Yes. Something to that effect.
Which is like, and just because of the politics, and I hate saying that when it comes to video game, especially video game award ceremonies, but I'm going to call it right now. I suspect that it'll get game of the year.
You think so? You don't think?
I think that Baldur's Gate has too many devs that are really angry at it because it was doing what the industry told them was impossible for so long.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that, and politics plays such, and I'm not talking about like local voting politics. I'm talking about cliques in the industry. Cliques in the industry are huge. I don't know if you want to call it a problem or just a scourge to humanity, but it's those things, right? So it's very prevalent. It's extremely prevalent, which is weird because with all of the people getting mass layoffs in the last few years, you'd think some of the studios would start to say, hey, we should probably start working together a little bit more, like, have our backs. I mean, the devs of the studios, not the studios themselves, but yeah, it's that's very unfortunate, but we'll see. It's going to be, I will be surprised just based off of like what you say and then what I've seen from a lot of people streaming it, which I have not had a chance to watch like in depth, but it seems like it's a really good game.
It's really damn good. And for the record, I'm not saying that Alan Wake is the game of the year. I'm saying it's probably going to end up being my game of the year. I regrettably have not had the time that I would like to put into games like Baldur's Gate 3. I have put some time into it, and just based on a basic glance of the stuff that game offers off the bat and the promises that it makes, and for stuff that happens later on in the game, and based on what I've been hearing from people like Syb and other people who've played the game and how those promises pay off, it probably is game of the year. I just haven't put time into it. So just making that clarification. But yeah, have any of you guys managed to play Alan Wake 2 yet? Do you enjoy it? Are you disappointed by it? We'd love to hear what your comments are, any thoughts that you might have in the description box, in the comments section below. Just make sure you whatever comments you leave, that they're civil. All right, let's move from that wonderful piece of news into something a little bit more more sad. It's a franchise that actually I hold in a higher regard than Alan Wake, and I've been waiting for its return for not as long as Alan Wake, but long enough. Metal Gear Solid. Yeah. So we got a couple of stories on Metal Gear Solid. One is actually encouraging. We'll save that. We'll get the bad news out of the way first. So, this past Tuesday, Konami released what they call the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection for all modern consoles and PC. Now, what is in this Master Collection? Well, to be specific, it's Volume 1. So that implies a Volume 2. We know there's going to be a Volume 2, obviously. We're just not exactly sure what games are going to be on it. Are they going to include the Twin Snakes? Probably not. But anyways, on this Master Collection, you can get Metal Gear Solid 1 through 3, Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 for the NES and MSX, as well as the spin-off game Snake's Revenge. On the outside looking in, I have not purchased this game, and I'm going to make it pretty clear why in a second. But on the outside looking in, I can recommend the Master Collection to a very specific type of person. That person being somebody who doesn't own any consoles outside of the modern consoles and doesn't own a PC that runs games well. If you're one of those types of people, then the Master Collection is fine. However, if you own a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360 or a console or a PC that can run games well, and you own a pre-existing copy of any of the games that I mentioned, then you absolutely should not pick up the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. And here's why. Well, I'll run down the list of stuff here. So, I'll just say why I'm not buying it. I own copies of all the Metal Gear Solid games. Not the NES originals, but Metal Gear Solid 1 through 3. There's absolutely no reason why I should buy this game if I can emulate it. Metal Gear Solid 1 through DuckStation, or Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 through the RPCS3 emulator, and do so while also being able to heighten the internal resolution as well as the resolution that it outputs at. Now, some people might be like, who aren't tech geeks like me and Syb, might be like, what the hell does that even mean? Look, so Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, in the Master Collection, they output at a resolution at a max of 1080p. That is a resolution that was sort of the highest standard about 10 years ago for televisions and computer screens. with an internal resolution that's even lower than that at 720p. That's 720p and 1080p was like the highest you can get during the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 generation. That was about 2 years ago. In this generation, people reasonably expect that we should be able to play these old titles on modern hardware at an upscaled resolution. Maybe not the Switch, because it doesn't go up to 4K resolution, but on consoles like the PlayStation 5 and the modern Xboxes and the PC. And the Master Collection does not give that to us. So I don't see any reason why I should pay to get the Master Collection. Yeah, there's achievements, but I can get those achievements through the HD collection of Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 back in the day, or through the Legacy collection that released on the PlayStation 3. I'm good. I don't want the achievements that bad. All right, let's move on from that. Let's see, what do I have here on my list? Okay, yeah, also, it's pretty clear to me that this is just a lazy, bare-bones port, aside from just a couple cool special features like scripts from the original game, or like a lore booklets for people that don't know what the hell's going on in the story. That's pretty cool. But aside from that, everything else is just, it's pretty clear that all Konami wanted to do was just buy an emulator wrapper, as Bellular said in that video that you sent to me, Side, that all they did was they bought that emulator and then put it on a disc and made the games run at those particular resolutions. And didn't really do anything else with it, when they could have very easily done other stuff with it, because as Bellular pointed out, there was a modder who within hours after the game released a 4K mod that allows you to play Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 at 4K using the Master Collection. Why can't you do that bare minimum effort, Konami? I don't understand. It's such an easy win for you. And moving on from that, you know what another easy win would be? Giving these games keyboard and mouse support when they already exist in the PC versions that you can get on GOG and I think, no, not the Epic Game Store. Okay, just GOG. Why is it that it exists on that and you can't give it for us in the Master Collection? Oh, is it because you were just doing a basic emulator wrapper transition onto the game, onto the disc? Probably, yeah. So why couldn't you just give that to us, like, again, bare minimum effort? Why is that so difficult for you? But it goes beyond that. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, well, we gave you this quality of life edition where you can pause the cutscenes in Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, which you couldn't do in the original games. Yeah, that's cool. But you know what? I shouldn't have to wait 10 seconds until the pause button actually works, for Christ's sake. All right, what else?
That alone just made me like flip when I was reading the issues with it. I was like, who designs a pause button with a 10-second delay?
Konami.
Like,
because they're Konami. Yeah. Remember, guys, this is still Konami, and stuff like this is just making me even more effing worried for Silent Hill Ascension tomorrow. But yeah, let's continue, because I'm not done bitching about this franchise. Controls, when people try to remap them on their controller to something that's more comfortable for them, the controls constantly get remapped while they're still playing to the Xbox default. What the hell? All right, no audio settings. Really? We can't get 3D audio? Like zero audio nothing.
Settings.
Okay, all right. What else? No way to return to the Master Collection menu when you start up a title. So if you turn on Metal Gear Solid 1, you want to jump out and turn on Metal Gear Solid 2, or you just want to look at any of the special features, you can't. You have to stop the game and boot it again. It's like we're back in the PS1 era. All right. Mm-hmm. And then finally, this one, like, people are getting me shit for this one, but I don't care. Metal Gear Solid 1, when you emulate it through the Master Collection, its aspect ratio is forced to stay at 4:3. You don't have an option to stretch it to 16:9. When I played Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS3, I had that option. Mm-hmm. And I like that option. And people are like, but it makes it look bad. Not to me. I like it that way. I should have the option. Why isn't it there, Konami? Why do I have to have these ugly sidebars on the side? You know, the stylistic, yeah, it's from the Metal Gear Solid 1 menu on the sides of the screen. I don't want that. That's ugly to me. I would rather have it stretched out. It looks good that way to me. Maybe not to you guys, but it does to me. Anyways, just stuff like this, Konami. I don't know. This should have been the easiest thing to do in the world. If people can do this for free in their spare time, you can pay a couple people to do, like, I don't know, a week of work just to and allow this to be able to go up to 4K. If a modder can do it within a few hours, why can't you pay somebody to do that for you? Are you just that greedy? Or are you just incompetent and I don't know. I want to know. Anyways, I'm more upset about this because when there's incompetence in the present, guys, it means it's going to affect all future projects moving forward. So I don't know what the hell is going to happen with Silent Hill, especially with Silent Hill Ascension tomorrow. I have no interest in that. I just want to know when Silent Hill 2 Remake is coming out. But anyways, I've rambled on enough about this. And I still have to talk about the other thing. Syb, any thoughts? Sorry.
This is why
I need a drink
Konami
after that.
Is just not... They're not capable of current game development, I think. I honestly believe it. I really worry about future games coming out from them. Because when you look at a company that's just... I mean, this is like incompetency on levels that... It's one of those scenarios where, like, the last time I remember seeing this was the guy who was leading the development behind Final Fantasy IV, the MMO. And he was asked why, and this was the original version, which the new game director, the guy who came in, burnt to the ground. Like, they literally made a cinematic of them burning it to the ground. He was asked questions like, hey, why don't you have a jump function? Why are all the maps copy-pasted, repeated over and over and over and over again? And his answers were to say curt, or to say glib, or to say just absolutely just brushing people off. Like, why you ask me a stupid question? Like, how do you know I am the greatest game creator ever? Why would you think any of that stuff would be necessary? And if it's not necessary, why would I put it in the game? And it was so arrogant. Like, I will probably remember this particular interview to my death, because it's so
appalling.
It was so appalling from a video game standpoint. It's like, you're in a medium where there's challenges, there's difficulties, if you don't make a good game, you have people who you have to fire. And we're seeing it again. We're seeing it now.
Yeah, we're gonna.
But we saw it
that.
back. And we've seen it crash. And he was around for the previous crashes. And it's like both of them, which was so weird to have him just like roll his eyes and just rudely states like, it's not needed. Why should it be added? You dummy. Who needs sound controls when you have sound controls on your television set? Who needs to map your keys when you have a controller that I've put all the keys on the controller? What do you mean it's inconvenient to press 3 buttons at the same time to get something to happen? Right. On the same side of the controller, and it's like the concepts that have rooted themselves in, and we could say this, is rooted themselves in Konami, are so deep that I don't think they're something that they can like move around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's either that or they just did not care. This was a cash grab. It was obvious that they weren't interested in doing anything when it came to, making a quality product. They are like, how many people are going to buy this if we do the absolute and the MVP? We talk about MVP when we talk about Blizzard a lot. Activision, Mr. Bobby K, who perfected the art of screwing people over.
Mm-hmm.
The MVP, minimum viable product.
Yep.
Not the MVP as most people think. Going, they care about us, us the customers. No, you're not the MVP. The product is the MVP, and it's not a good MVP. It's the minimal viable product. So I'm betting that they had some people come in and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. If we do the minimal absolute minimal amount of effort, how many sales will we get? Oh, you're projected to get this many sales. And if we do a really good job, like stand up, amazing job, hire some people, how many sales do you get? Oh, probably slightly more. And they're like, oh, okay. So if we just don't do anything, we don't make any improvements, utilize any technology to make this a better product than what we've already put out in other avenues, then we're just going to get guaranteed sales. And that's the sad thing, is that there's so many people who are stuck to certain developers. They're stuck to them.
Yeah.
They're like, I must continue to support this company because this company put out a game 35 years ago that I worship the ground that it walks on. And they've made nothing since then. Go ahead, man.
If I could interject. Yeah, no, I actually have a couple of friends that I've been talking with recently because I'm like all up in that Baldur's Gate business. And I'm like, you should try out this game. It's amazing. They're like, oh, I only have so much time. And like, I just got to do my runs, my raids with my guild and stuff. I was like, seriously? You don't want to try this really cool? Like look at all my characters. They look so sexy and amazing. Like, yeah, nope. I only got time for one game, only space for one game in my life, and that's it. And I'm just like, wow, that's really sad.
Yeah. That was World of Warcraft for me at one point in my life. Yeah, I just one last thing about this. I hope to God that they don't do this for Volume 2, because Syb, we know that Volume 2 is coming, and it's virtually 100% certain that Metal Gear Solid 4 is going to be on there. And I love that game. It's my least favorite out of all of them, but I love it. And playing that game on the PlayStation 3 back in the day, there are times when you're playing that game where that game will go down to 15 frames per second. If that happens when people play it on the PC and there hasn't been anything done to improve the emulation, I'm going to slash somebody's tires. I know I say that a lot, but I'm serious this time. When it comes to Metal Gear Solid, don't with me, Konami. You understand me? All right. Now, on that...
He means metaphorical tires. But
yes, officially. Tire. Let's go with that. All right. Let's go on to this. So, Syb, I hope that what you're saying about Konami and how entrenched the corruption and the incompetence is not true. And there is something that Konami did to maybe give us a little sliver of hope. So when Konami, this is just my conspiracy theory, so indulge me here. I like to think that because of how much crap people have been giving the Master Collection, Konami sort of wanted to change the narrative this past week. So when Xbox did their Partners Showcase, they showed footage from the upcoming Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, which is officially titled Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, running in Unreal Engine 5. Oh, God, it looks good.
I mean, and I hope that I'm wrong, that it's not that their incompetency is completely taken over absolutely everything, but that on... excuse me.
Don't die on
Excuse me. I've had a cold for the past month, and it's been terrible. But yes, I'm hoping that I'm wrong, and I'm really hoping that we will get to a situation where we could see that this was just the analysts coming in there saying, make a minimal viable product, and you'll sell basically the same amount, because that's what these leeches do in the industry. These leeches, I talk about them a lot. The analysts who do similar job than what I do, and they're scum. They're absolutely scum. Yeah. They come in and they're the ones who pushed for microtransactions. They're the ones who convinced companies to say, no, why would we need to put out another Spyro game? People don't want another Spyro game.
Yes, we do.
Why would we put out Crash Bandicoot? Crash Bandicoot was last generation. You got to get the new thing. The new thing is shooters everywhere. Everybody's shooting something. You know, you got Lilith shooting guns now. Get Lilith and an angel, and they start shooting each other. That's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this absolute like mind-numbingly stupid concept where nobody understands that a big company can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. You know, and I hope that's the case, because then that means that they are focused on this new game, and you know, they're putting all their work into that, and they just didn't have time to even consider basic options in this,
right?
Because they knew that it's a waste of money, because the same number of people are going to buy it as not, and what they don't fix, some modder will fix, which they'll never thank that modder. They'll never engage with that modder in a healthy way. But they know that, you know, he's going to move an extra 100,000 units because of what he's able to do,
right?
Or what the community is able to do.
But that's exclusively for the PC, not for the console owners. But back to Metal Gear Solid Delta. So contrasting with what you were just saying about the analysts and recommending the MVP. What they showed us with this pre-alpha footage from the MGS3 remake, it looks like they are putting some degree of effort into that, because graphically speaking, this game looks great. It looks really effing good. Snake's character model looks amazing. All these very, very, very familiar environments from that game look just gorgeous. Plus, it seems, based on the footage that they showed us, that they're not just taking the basic gameplay of Metal Gear Solid 3 from back in the day, but they are molding it to fit the controls and animations that we had in Metal Gear Solid 5. I mean, like, I saw side-by-side comparisons of stuff from Metal Gear Solid 5 and the gameplay that we saw in MGS3, and it's the same. Can you imagine, Sybe, if we got an updated MGS3 and Unreal Engine 5 with MGS5's gameplay? Sign me up. Now, because it's Konami, they're probably going to mess it up somehow, so I'm going to keep my expectations tempered. But just based on what we saw, I'm impressed. And one final thing just on that. I have seen some people complain that it's going for the more ultra-realism aesthetic and not for like the... I don't know what to call it. There's sort of like a greenish haze that sort of hangs over the original MGS3. It's sort of a part of the art direction, and people are complaining about that. That's something that can easily be fixed, or like you can change it.
Yeah, that greenish haze was a way to boost frame rate back in the day. Yeah, it's a common trick to basically, it makes it so that your view distance is limited. There's some games that use like a darker haze, and that was the first thing that most companies started to work with. I think there was this one game called, and I hope I'm getting this right, I believe it was called Fade to Black, that used a lot of that kind of like fading stuff for it was a very, very early 3D game. And yeah, so that stuff's been around for a really long time. In certain games, they utilized a color spectrum to it to give it an iconic look or an iconic feel that made the game work better on really early days technology, but also allowed them to have kind of a look or a certain feel to the game. And so, yeah, I really doubt that they're gonna stick with that in this. It just doesn't make sense.
Oh, you mean the ultra? Like stick with which?
Well, no, having the haze. It would make sense for them to go another direction.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm one of the people that would be fine with them not having that haze anymore. But I'm just pointing out that there are people on Twitter that are saying that I do like that art style, and that's fine. I think you can. We live in a world where we should be able to get both. Just off the top of my head, like I think about the Shadow of the Colossus remake, where you can have all these different filters over the game. And I saw also on Twitter just today, somebody did a side-by-side comparison where they did a color correction on that Delta trailer, where we saw how it was presented to us, and then one with the MGS3 art style, and they both look really good. So, Konami, again, very easy win. Give us the option to switch between both if we want to. So, yeah, it's still pre-alpha, which means we're still a long ways away. But what I'm seeing, just based on what they showed us, it's encouraging. But it's Konami, so they'll probably find some way to mess it up. Okay, let's move on to this next story. You guys went to see Five Nights at Freddy's. How was it?
It was really good. Like visually, they nailed it.
Yep.
And story, again, no spoilers. Storyline wise,
it's a good setup for anyone who's like not familiar with the game. Like you get it.
Yeah, it's not something that you have to prep for. It's not something that you have tons and tons of lore for. There is lots of lore, obviously, within the universe.
Really?
Scott Cawford. I can't remember his name. The original writer. He's written novels. There's a lot of lore in there, but it's a lot of it is segmented and smaller. So I personally thought that I like this design. It's like creepy and dark in the right ways that lead to where it is, because sometimes there wasn't that, in my opinion, there was, as far as like the lore of the original games goes, wasn't that much, like the lore wasn't outstanding from just the game's perspective. Apparently the novels are really good, and I think that's great. I think that's probably like a good direction to go in. But they went this perfect direction of like, I don't know, what do you call it without like giving too much spoilers? I'd say it's like a perfect combination of like Goosebumps and Friday the 13th series.
Yeah.
Probably it's like a good combination of those two things, like Goosebumps, the kids television show, and Friday the 13th, which features I don't like that series much at all, but I think that the way that they've combined it is really, really good, and I like that. And it's kind of cool. It's the right amount of like atmospheric feel to it. So yeah, and there's some really good scenes in the movie that I'm sure will haunt younger kids that manage to convince somebody to take them to it.
Yeah, actually, we did see a lot of kids like going there with their families, with their parents.
Really?
And stuff. It was actually very adorable. Yeah, there was a whole couple of gaggles of them.
Well,
There's some like, yeah.
Yeah, I heard it's PG-13, so I mean, like I saw PG-13 movies plenty when I was a kid, so yeah, why not? I mean, yeah, it's pretty fun. I could not believe it set records this past weekend, didn't it? Like $80 million, really?
Yeah, and 146 some odd million.
Wow.
For international, which is, I mean, like they made their money back, and I gotta say, I'm not a fan of this particular actor when he was in the Hunger Games series. I didn't. He was Peter or whatever. Peter.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I did not like him in. I only watched the first movie, and I did not like him in that. However, he is easily one of my favorite actors after I saw him in Future Man. And so when I saw him in this, all I could think about, because I just finished watching the last of Future Man, and I was like, just the dumbest grin on my face going, I know this guy. I've seen his ding-a-ling. Oh my God, that's so great. So, yeah, just I liked all the actors. Every actor was marvelously played, was like really, really good. They've set the stage, in my opinion, they have set the stage for a decent series, like a really good series, a really good run. And I really hope that they get on this with this success. They go, all right, let's do a second one next year. Let's expand the lore a little bit more. They left, again, no spoilers, but there's some breadcrumbs that can result in them, in you definitely wanting to check out next year's edition, or however soon they get around to it. The only thing, my biggest gripe, is that I would have preferred to see this in like 6 episodes on a miniseries run on a streaming service.
Sure.
I legitimately would, because I felt that the movie was a little rushed, and that they could have had so many like they could have really ramped that up and like had like maybe even just 4, right? For the month of October, every week you get a new episode. Right before Halloween, you get the last episode, and I would love that if they did that every year, because it had the right feel to it. It had the right gump to it. If they double down and make a series, that's great. If they end up doing yearly movies, I think honestly better than Halloween, better than a lot of the big horror movies that have been out in recent years for Halloween month. And I like that idea. So I was very happy with it. I was really happy. I was just overall, I'm like, yeah, this is, as far as like horror movie Halloween thriller, 10 out of 10. Not a 10 out of 10 as like, you know,
in and of
movies in
itself.
general.
Right.
It's like an easy 8, but as like a horror movie, as that in its genre of doing what it's supposed to do and scaring the ever living bejeebious out of kids, I think 10. I think they nailed it. I think this is a masterclass in how to do that. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of kids who are 9, 10, 11. They came, they watched that, and they're like, oh my God. And that'll stick with them for as long as like the never ending story stuck with me. Right. And talking to Fenris in the wall and the horse dying in the mud. And it's just like, oh no, it's terrible. Those are spoilers alert for a 20, 30, 40-year-old, 45-year-old movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so old.
Man,
I'm excited to see the costumes coming from this.
Oh, sure.
Cosplay, is going to be great.
I don't know. Like Five Nights at Freddy's is obviously something that I've heard of, but it always just seemed like goofy to me. But you're telling me that thing actually has in-depth lore?
Oh yeah, yeah. He's so there's, I think there are 4 novels per, basically per game release.
Oh wow, okay.
There's a ton. I mean, he really, Scott did an amazing job of growing that lore, that depth of that universe.
Wow.
And I can't say that there's any scenario in which it's poor. It's like, nah, this is like golden.
Well, I'm not certain that I'll be able to see it in the next few days because I'm going to be busy watching the travesty that Silent Hill Ascension is probably going to end up being. I hope I'm wrong. And also, I'm going to try and convince my wife to watch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre with me because that's my favorite horror movie of all time, and she's never seen it. But I don't know. Maybe this will be my initiation point. I'll check it out sometime. It's on Peacock as well, right? It simultaneously released. Okay, maybe I'll check it out there. Yeah. Guys, have you had the chance to see Five Nights at Freddy's? I don't know, maybe you saw it this past weekend. Let us know in the comment section below. Do you echo Syb's sentiments, or did you not like it at all? Just let us know. All right. Got a few smaller stories that we just want to get through really quickly, and then we'll cap things off. Syb, what else do we got?
So just in the continuing success of games coming to the big screen, we have that new
or big screen coming to games.
Coming to game, the reverse of that. Sorry.
Yeah.
We have a Barbarian. So there's movie Barbarian. It was a smash hit. Everybody liked it.
I hadn't heard of it until you told me about it today.
And they are now you get to not just hear about it, you get to play it. Because they're making a game for it. So that's cool. I think that, well, anytime you got a game called a movie called Barbarian, like being able to do a video game format of that is sort of a no-brainer. I mean, I'm honestly shocked how we do not have more like how do we not have more Conan the Barbarian? I don't understand. Right. I don't get this. I mean, there's a couple active things. But how do we not have just like, how is there not like a God of War style
Conan game?
Conan game. Like there's so much lore, there's so much stories. Even the side jaunts where they go off to the ice flows and deal with a bunch of starving people there. That stuff's really interesting.
I still want my
And
Conan
yet-
3, man.
Yeah, I know.
It's probably too late for that, but I agree with you. I definitely want that in the form of a game. But Barbarian, yeah, I hadn't heard of it. Like, apparently it came out last year or something like that, and I looked at the reviews for it. People really love this movie. I should probably check it out. And it's also this game that's being developed. It's being made by the same people that did the Friday the 13th game and Evil Dead, if I'm not mistaken. Just based on a little bit I read about it. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, Friday the 13th, it's kind of bootleg. It's enjoyable, but it's kind of bootleg. Like, not that great, but it's fine. And Evil Dead, I heard some good things about it, but it sort of died off. But who knows? Like, there's enough quality to those games where I hear, like, oh, they're going to be doing another movie to game adaptation. All right.
Evil Dead is another thing where it's like they made a series out of it, and it's like it's so good.
I heard
for like trashy, just like
It's very tropey
garbage TV. It's second to none.
Wasn't Bruce Campbell in that as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
The whole thing.
Well, damn,
Yeah.
I'll watch anything that man is in. Like that man, he could sink an iceberg with his chin. I'd be happy to check it out.
If you can, I would also recommend, if you have a chance, to see the musical version.
Yeah, that I've heard great things about it as well. Yeah, but is there a way to watch it without actually having to go see it on Broadway or something? I don't know.
Probably, I would imagine.
I would imagine that there's definitely a way.
Okay, I'll seek it out at some point. I've seen the original 3 and the 2013
you
remake.
might have to go sailing.
Yeah, I gotcha. I catch your drifts. Get it? All right, let's move on. What else?
All right. Just quick. Like I alluded to before, the game companies are laying people off left, right, and center. Bungie was hit quite hard, reportedly, coming from a couple of reports. A good chunk of them have been let go.
Wow.
What is happening? I'm so confused.
Yeah, Bungie, like, they had a pretty good uphill trajectory, like, around a year ago with Destiny 2. Like, people were, like, I mean, like, Destiny 2 has been in an upward trajectory ever since its launch. It launched okay, but then it got significantly better over time. But just in the past year, people have been getting super pissed at that game. And then they announced Marathon, which is cool, but why would they lay off people right now when things aren't looking as good as they should be for Destiny 2 and they have this new game coming out? What the hell?
Yeah. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make me worried for obviously a lot of people in the industry. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why this is happening. This is so weird. But yeah, more layoffs. And then for the final story, we've got there is sorry says semi because I promised something earlier. So Capcom has a game coming out in November. Sorry, not November.
What?
March.
What?
My bad. My bad. My brain is mush right now. I'm so sick of my brain is mush. In March, M&N, right? You know. Anyways, in March they have a new game coming out. It is an it's a major title dropping in March 2024, and they were smiling and saying nothing has leaked about it. And I think they mentioned this because we're probably going to see a big old trailer for it during the Game Awards.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're a huge Capcom fan, pay attention because they have what they are calling one of their biggest releases coming next year, early in March, and nobody's heard. They haven't seen like any leaks or rumors about it at all. So this got me really wondering. I'm like at all, or like, you know, their boardroom at all, which is not always sometimes the same thing. But I'm very curious. That definitely raised my eyebrow, and I went, I wonder what this is going to be, because this is very interesting. A massive title like this, just waiting to get roaring. Interesting. Interesting.
I can only think that the only type of game that they could possibly get away with doing something like that without too much pre-marketing is something Resident Evil related. Because I would think they would want to build up hype more for like something like expected, like a Monster Hunter, something like that. Or if it's bringing back an old IP like Dino Crisis, which is something that people have wanted for a long time, they would want to build up excitement for that as something like, hey, if you've never been into Resident Evil, here's why you should be into Dino Crisis and buy this game. But yeah, I don't know, maybe Code Veronica remake? Because I seem to remember when Resident Evil 3 remake was announced, they announced that pretty close to its release date. I could see them doing something like Code Veronica, Resident Evil 0, something like that. I don't know. I'm down for it. I mean, I've been loving whatever like Capcom has been doing lately. So, what do you think it is, Sib?
I think it's probably something. I've heard rumors about Monster World. So,
like a DLC,
so Monster Hunter World. No, like quite possibly a new game, new big entry, something that's not a part of the current. So not a DLC or expansion or continuing content of anything that's currently out there.
Oh wow.
Okay. Because if you look at it from the perspective of like them getting access to a brand new engine, timeline sort of lines up, but that's just a very, 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 very kind of mild guess. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that it's something different entirely. I would love that that fighting that's got all the Darksider characters in it. That was one of my earliest experiences with like beat 'em ups, mm-hmm. And that's an IP that's been sitting around for a long time that nobody's been doing anything with.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see. I got nothing concrete. I'm just gonna like go, maybe. Right.
Well, whatever it is, we're excited for it. All right, and that's it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. The Kong. Somebody made a new Kong game.
Oh, what did we?
And it was so bad.
Yeah, like it, and the story behind it, from what I understand, is really tragic. The people that were trying to make that game, they were only given a year to develop it, mm-hmm. which is criminal. I don't know, like under what circumstances something like that should have ever happened, but I mean, it's quite clear. Like you look at that game, and it makes Gollum look like a GOTY contender, for Christ's sake. I'm serious. Like it looks horrible. And you're doing that to a classic IP like King Kong. I can't even describe how bad it is, guys. It looks like it doesn't even like it looks like a PS2 game, but it doesn't even function as well as most PS2 games do. It's so bad. Yeah.
So I don't know how that got past like 5 layers of company bureaucracy. Like, it seems kind of weird, but yeah.
Don't underestimate how stupid people can be when it comes to stuff like this. And stuff like this, you know what? I'm not even going to say that. I was going to make something sort of comparison to Konami, but I don't want to say anything favorable about them right now. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for this episode of Maximum News. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you hit that like button, because when you do that, it tells the YouTube algorithm that not only this video, but all the other videos on this channel are worth watching. So please do that. It's quick, free, and easy to do, provided you like the show, obviously. Leave a comment on any of the things that we talked about. We'd love to keep the conversation going. I want to thank Syb, as always, for joining us, and I want to thank Moon, as always, for being our special guest, talking about FNAF, or FNAF. I think that's how the Zoomers pronounce it. Yeah, either you have anything you want to plug before we're done?
No, we've got, again, we were working on stuff, but I am very sick. I'm very, very sick, and there's been some delays. We are so sorry.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable.
So just tune in every week here. We got this at the very minimum. We have this, but we do have more stuff coming soon.
Sweet. And you guys can tune in to my personal YouTube channel at Max Derrat. I have a video coming out later this week. I think it's going to be on Zelda lore, and then hopefully next week I'll have something up for Alan Wake 2. I want to be quite thorough with that game. But until that time, guys, I want to remind you, as always, stay yellow.